Welcome to Almost Here, Round the Corner Future Technology podcasts with Richard Jacobs. Future technologies poised to transform our lives for better or worse are the focus of this podcast. Almost here means these technologies are now here and starting to be used, or just around the corner, from Bitcoin to artificial intelligence, 3D printing, blockchain, virtual reality, and more.
Hello, and welcome to the Future Tech Podcast. I'm Alan Thomas, and today I am joined by Tom Beno, CEO of Tech Bureau, and Nate D'Amico, Chief Product Officer of Tech Bureau. How you guys doing today?
Fantastic. Thanks for having us, Alan.
Wonderful.
Thanks for being here. And Tom, I'll start with you. Just tell us about Tech Bureau.
So Tech Bureau is essentially an organization that was started out of Japan about 4 years ago, and it started around an exchange called Zaif, and since has scaled to a few different divisions. One in North America, which Nate and I run, and then there's one in Europe as well. And there's a few different pieces to the business. One being our tokenization and cryptocurrency, and then the other piece being our blockchain, private blockchain solution, which we leverage via the NEM protocol. So just to touch on COMSA a little bit, essentially the whole background was a software solution to help streamline the ICO process. And it's essentially a network of software and product offerings for businesses to adopt and really help as they scale and go to market with their assets and through tokens and really their sale offering. My background is through enterprise software sales. I've been in the business for about 15 years now. I've done pre-IPO work with startups as well as multi-billion-dollar organizations like Oracle, Disney, Tibco. So have a background in software sales, more from an enterprise standpoint, and I bring that essentially to the offering here, and looking forward to scaling the company.
Okay, and Nate, how about we get a little bit about your background and how you came to the position of Chief Product Officer?
Yeah, so my background somewhat similar to Tom's, but more on the product kind of engineering side of things. So background is like computer science, math, engineering. I've been working in the enterprise space for about 17 years now. Mix of mobile enterprise, CRM, ERP, and lots of data center automation stuff in recent years coming into this project. A big focus and interest is commercial open source. So working for some of the early companies in like 03, 04 that were kind of starting the commercial open source revolution in the application space. And I've kind of carried that on. That's been a kind of a big interest. And doing some stuff with the Apache Software Foundation and the Hadoop ecosystem there. And that's kind of how I segued doing distributed big data, commercial open source systems. I started getting interested in kind of enterprise blockchain and the tech angle of it and how it was going to start to be applied in varying, business architectures. And came across, a range of projects, of which Megan and the NEM protocol was one of them. And then through Tom and some connections, just started, playing around with the product. And, the idea was to, working on the version 2 of the product was to take a commercial open source approach. So that obviously caught my interest, besides building out the COMSA platform. So it's kind of this two-pronged approach of building out the software as a service for COMSA, and then the kind of commercial open source angle of our enterprise blockchain offering.
Okay, and Tom, I know you mentioned that one of the chief efforts for the company was to streamline the ICO process. What is it that you guys saw in the process where you said we need to dedicate a lot of time and energy and resources to it? What is it that needed to be corrected?
Yeah, I think, there's a lot that goes into an ICO, and Nate can definitely expand on this, but just in the ever-changing ecosystem of regulations here in not only the United States, which is where we're focused, as well as North America, Canada, But in Europe and Japan and Asia as well, it's almost a daily regulatory change that happens. So what we wanted to do was streamline that process and help businesses kind of react and for lack of better terms, be more proactive than reactive to all these regulations that are coming up. So there's a legal component. There is obviously the technology component, which I'm sure Nate will get into, but the dashboarding aspect, the identity service, cryptocurrency, as you well know, is still something that is a little bit of the unknown. So we've got to be careful and put best practices in place around knowing your customer, AML services, that sort of thing. And then obviously our passion is the blockchain, and that's really why we're all in this. So tying the blockchain together and having an offering that really is scalable, that allows businesses to grow and be trustworthy, secure, and do what they need to do as they go to market. So that's really, I think, putting a software offering out there that kind of encompasses the entire, initial coin offering process, from white paper to legal to really the technology behind it, and making that, streamlining that, and making that more efficient. Given the fact that we went through the COMSA sale, for example, and it was very manual. So we learned a lot and decided, hey, let's put a solution in place.
Okay, and as Tom mentioned, Nate, can you go into a little bit more detail with the technical aspects of it?
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, Tom kind of touched on some of the key pillars. I mean, if you break it down into what goes into executing a sale, without going too deep into details, looking at kind of the high level kind of buckets of effort, you definitely have the tech and the tokenization side. So a project says, I want to tokenize, this is our solution, right? So that's drafting the white paper, the tokenomics, the utility and or security of their token, the use cases. Obviously, if there's tech involved, building that out. Sometimes we help clients if they need it. Other times it's not needed and they take it on themselves. And then you basically get into the life cycle of actually executing a sale. So there's obviously the fronting kind of marketing, recruiting aspect, getting people into the sale, getting them registered, having KYC and AML checks done. There's a process and a cost involved with that. Having them join your sale, accepting one or more funds. Like some projects will just say, hey, we're doing an Ethereum token, and we will accept Ethereum for our sale, and that's what we raised. And then some will say, we're going to accept Ethereum and Bitcoin. We try to cast a pretty wide net because there's a lot of diversity in the crypto space. So we accept basically 6 different currencies. And we'll probably expand more as kind of clients, bring them into the fold. Then once a sale's running, there's the support aspect. This is probably where the heaviest lifting's done. So instead of an organization having to scale up and let's say hire 6, 7, 8 part-time to full-time support people to answer questions, deal with KYC issues, deal with wallet issues, transactions not showing up on the blockchain, and validation and crediting of funds received, to then sending out the tokens, we basically take on all of that. So we're building not only software, but we have humans behind the scenes that are powering it and dealing with support tickets and whatnot. So that's kind of part of the package. Then kind of coming out of it on the back end, once the sale is done, then there's the reporting and the distribution. And a part that isn't really, it's not front and center yet, but we think it's going to be as regulation plays out around the world, which is kind of reporting, auditing, and accounting. So in 6 months ago, kind of the Wild West, right? So 2016, 2017. Coming into this year, regulations becoming more important and basically required. So we see a future where we're kind of proactively building out an advanced kind of reporting and audit tools. So a company that's maybe doing a security token they'll have their auditors and accounting people say, like, give me a report on these 20 questions about your sale, and our system should spit that out and give you the audit of everyone who participated. What are the amounts? What are the addresses? So that's the type of stuff we're building into the software. And then at the center of it, as Tom mentioned, is the identity service. So the COMSA identity service is, we're basically our first customer. So that is the KYC, AML, identity kind of centralized service. And as clients do tokenization events with us, it'll leverage that. But we're also talking to third parties that say, hey, I need a KYC service. Can we leverage the COMSA identity service? So we kind of, those are kind of the pillars that kind of go into it. So yeah, part technology, part kind of human kind of consulting and support services as well. Yeah.
And so when you have all of these people with all, and especially all these different currencies that you're dealing with, I know you said there were 6 currently, and of course you're going to have to expand, but if you're dealing with that many currencies right now, then I guess at least that particular aspect of it, you're kind of dealing with a moving target, right? In terms of you'll have to kind of keep on expanding and expanding and expanding.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the one nice thing is we won't have to deal with, there's, 1,500 plus tokens in the world. Like, we definitely won't have to scale that large. But when you look at the lion's share of kind of, let's say, the top, top 10 tokens, top 10 coins, there's different factions, right? You have the Bitcoin maximalists, you have Ethereum people that are highly passionate and just deal with Ethereum. Well, obviously, we're heavily involved in the NEM community since we produce the actual blockchain that runs their network and will run their future network in version 2. So if you're a passionate NEM person, you are a NEM holder. So if you want to participate in a sale, you'd love to be able to contribute your ZEM. You might also have some Ethereum. You might kick some of that in. So we see where it's not going to be an infinite list. So today we accept Bitcoin, Ethereum, ZEM, our COMSA token, which is a hybrid token of both an ERC20 Ethereum token as well as a NEM native token. And then we're adding futures in BCH for Bitcoin Cash, and there's a few others that are kind of being asked about, but no one's demanding it yet. So definitely moving target, but nothing too bad. It's more about just managing the range of wallets and the market pricing. So we have to track all that live real time as well. Since if you contribute Bitcoin at this timestamp, we have to make sure we credit it. So the software kind of powers all that as well. So adding new ones isn't as hard as setting up the base system.
Okay, and Tom and Nate kind of alluded to this already, but I wanted to get into a little bit of what kind of challenges do you see just getting the projects to this point?
Yeah, that's a valid question. I think from a high level, more regulatory, being front and center, what's going on in the world and in your region and your specific really state, when we're speaking about the United States, and being ahead of the curve, right? And then from a technology standpoint, building out, the ICO is not, to echo Nate's statement a few minutes ago, it used to be the wild, wild west, right? And it is not that way. So I think being a step ahead is really the biggest challenge, and we do that through media, through networks, through connections, through what we build out from a technical platform as well.
Okay, and of course, if we speak about the challenges, I also want to give a chance to speak about some of the big wins up to this point, because I'm sure there are some pretty big achievements that come to mind of that where you've had really good days up to this point.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. We are essentially in the midst of launching our first ICO. Other than obviously ourselves was the beta. So we are in the midst of launching our first ICO. We've got 2 others, literally back to back, June and July. We'll call it June through August to be perfectly transparent, and then a batch of like 5 others that are coming behind that, and everyone's very exciting. The projects are catching a lot of traction, and the community is just really behind us, and that's really exciting. And what we're trying to do again is to, one, streamline this process so these great ideas actually take shape and mold and go to market, but 2, introduce the world to our blockchain technology, to Catapult, and mission and really get the product out there, and people can leverage it, see how it works, and use it for their day-to-day technical efforts.
Okay, and that kind of brings up an interesting question. And I'm going to start with you, Tom, then I'll go to Nate, because I want to kind of get your answers from both of you on that. And it's just about, have there been any ideas so far or features so far where, someone brings it to you or it comes across your desk and you just have to say, well, that might be a little bit too ambitious to try to do today, but maybe a year from now or a couple of years from now, or technology just isn't there yet, or you just have to kind of put it in your back pocket?
Well, I think, and I'll answer it at a high level, it's software, so anything can be done. That said, part of our approach is to kind of steer people in the right direction. Now, it's software as a service, so it's literally everyone. You're using software to help with your business, but there is a sense of a humanistic level where we will advise, hey, that is a little too ambitious, or why go that route. So there's a lot of collaboration. One of the back to the wins or great days, to your point, Alan, is getting to know these businesses inside and out. I feel like I get, me personally and the rest of the team get to, kickstart a new business, every other month. It's pretty awesome. It's exciting. And you meet all these fascinating people and help kind of focus their ideas and ultimately drive success, right? But I'll let Nate expand on that one. I'm sure he's chuckling. He's on the tech side and has seen some challenges or ambitious requests, if you will.
Oh yeah, I definitely want to get both of your answers on this one. So how about it, Nate?
Yeah, I mean, I guess to your points and comments, sometimes it's ambitious. I would say sometimes where we've talked to clients, they're maybe casting too wide a net. They're trying to do, again, in some ways, it's not too much different than like just tech startup world. If you take out the blockchain and the crypto aspect, like you have a bunch of startups, they have a bunch of ideas and they're trying to do them. And some startups are very narrow, very focused. Other ones are like, well, we're going to do this, but then it's also going to be the second thing. And then later we're going to launch this other service and unit, which will also use the token. And then it's going to do this other thing. And we'll kind of pare it back and be like, okay, well, let's focus on what's going to be launched. And then doing things like a perfect example. Okay, that all sounds great. Focus on what can be launched the month in some beta or MVP, the month that you're finishing your token sale or ahead or while you're doing your token sale. And then work backwards. So if the target that your business is going for is going to take a year to build, but you want to do your token sale tomorrow, then you need to figure out what you're launching in month 2, not month 14, right? And that's a little bit different than if you're doing like a new network, right? Like so, some of these new blockchain networks that are doing sales, they are long roadmaps. We try to take direct projects in a more incremental approach. So you might have a big goal that's a year plus out in the future, but focus on what's going to be delivered to the user. How can you deliver utility in your token yesterday, if not like very soon after the sale completes? And again, I think as the space and regulation evolves and as people kind of look at, a mix of utility and security tokens and whatnot, that will change as well. So yeah, I mean, we've had some interesting encounters. And then our pipeline, has evolved. A couple of projects have almost, to use startup terminology, like have once pivoted, and they basically had 3 efforts, and they kind of pared it down to 1, and that's what they're going with. So yeah, they're kind of evolving as we're kind of evolving ourselves. So it's definitely been interesting in the first, 7-8 months of launching this project.
Okay, and Tom, just a question for you: are we looking at? Are we ever going to see a day where it seems like regulators will start to catch up in a sense?
Yeah, I hope so. I do think that's feasible, and some countries and regions are ahead of others. I from a timetable standpoint, I would be putting my finger in the air here, but I would assume just being close to the Japan side of things, I think over the next 6 months to better part of a year, I think things will be stabilized from that aspect, hopefully sooner. And then U.S., I mean, that one's hard to tell. Probably likely around the same time frame, if not a little longer. There are some interesting states or interesting areas in the country, Arizona and Wyoming, to be specific, that are a little more bullish than others. But yeah, over the next year, this is gonna work itself out. And I think ultimately, Alan, the regulation thing is a good thing, because it's going to weed out a lot of the, for lack of better terms, scammy nature of kind of what the ICO word has come to be known to a certain extent. So we're very careful in what we engage with and partner with, but I think the regulatory efforts are actually a good thing. While they are challenging and painful at times, it's ultimately a good thing for us and for the real projects that are out there.
Okay, and Tom, for Tech Bureau in general, what does the roadmap look like for you guys over the next 12 to 24 months? What can we expect to see?
Scale. I think there's two pieces to the company, and I definitely want Nate to expand on this. But one is the COMSA software as a service to streamline, the ICO process, which we've spent the majority of this time speaking to. But the other piece, and I don't want to say bigger bucket, but I just did, I think, is Catapult, and it's our open source strategy moving forward, and gaining adoption, gaining more customers. We have quite a large list of beta users and about to be customers that want to adopt the chain, that see the scalability, that see the technological advancement in what we're doing over some of the other private ledgers out there. And that's going to be exciting for us. And that's really where we see expanding in the space. And again, I'll let Nate, touch on that as well. I know he's a big proponent of what we're doing from an open source perspective.
Oh, definitely. I want to get Nate's input on the same question as well.
Yeah. So, kind of to echo Tom's point, we kind of have two sides to that. We have the COMSA side and then the Catapult kind of enterprise chain side. They interact highly with each other. So like the first way is you look at a roadmap. With COMSA, there's the tech side and the business side. So business side, get more business, work with great clients, launch the clients that we've already signed, and prepare for regulation, both in the States for doing securitized exchange type offerings here, through our Swiss counterparts. The Swiss regulation plays out, as well as Japan. And then on the tech side, we are leveraging Catapult ourselves internally for the COMSA network. And really what that will be just a blockchain network that is part private, part public. It'll basically be used by us and all of our partners. So we'll be rolling that out. And that kind of combines the identity service, the dashboard token sale audit trail information, some currency swap as we accept different tokens and allow people to interact across chains. So we plan to start rolling that out hopefully in the next 2 months, probably with our beta network. As we start running these sales, we'll start logging audit data to the chain and then start integrating the identity service there. And then as Tom kind of mentioned, the COMSA network itself will be running our version of Catapult chain in the background. But then we just released it open source 10 days ago or so. We just released a set of deployment tooling. We're starting to kind of turn some initial adopters into evals and commercial agreements, signing them up. The NEM network for the public, NEM's been around for about 4.5 years on the version 1. They're going to be upgrading the network in the next calendar year, if not sooner, hopefully Q4, Q1. So that's going to be exciting to have a community that large kind of adopting the tech. Besides that, just kind of adding more features, taking feedback from people, and then kind of seeing where a lot of these regulations play out. Again, there's some key early locales. So again, since we are here in the States, as Tom mentioned, you have states like Arizona and Delaware and Wyoming that actually legally recognize distributed ledgers and blockchains as a source of truth now for business information. So that opens up a lot of potentially interesting use cases where you can, whether it's from an accounting, security, audit trail perspective or other company data, you can log it on chain. So and then legally report on it and be recognized at your state level. So hopefully federal level can catch up. But that's kind of the next 12 plus months. That's kind of what's in front of us on the tech and business side. Okay,
great. And Tom, I just wanted to get some, I guess, final thoughts from you about why everyone who's listening to this, why engage with Tech Bureau? Why get involved with these projects that you guys have going?
Yeah, I think one, the technology, right? But two, our approach is very, very collaborative, and that's the exciting piece for me. And I think I mentioned it a few minutes ago, but just getting to know the community, the ecosystem, and one of the big reasons over the past 15 years in my career of getting involved in technology and the technology I've been involved with is for transformation and disruption. And I think again, the space is ready to be disruptive, and I believe that we have the right team and overall strategy and technology to do so. So that's really the exciting piece for me, and why people should pay attention to us.
Okay, and what's the best way for people to get in touch with you guys and to start getting involved?
Yeah, so I think, and I'll let Nate give a shout out here, but I think really jumping in on the beta side of things for Catapult, and obviously through normal social media channels, they can always get a hold of me. But I think really proof is in testing the solution, and given this is a developer community, talk is cheap, if you will. So I would say download the software and give it a shot.
Cool. And from you, Nate?
Yeah, I'll kind of just echo that. Obviously there's the sales aspect of closing deals, both on the COMSA and the commercial side, but really we're kind of at this, this is going to be, realistically a marathon, and we're just at the starting line with releasing version 2 in its current, beta plus form. So just getting more people testing out the software, using open source tools. We're going to be, in the next week or two, we'll be launching under Meegen.io for Catapult.Meegen.io. The new site will launch, and we'll be running a free developer cloud service. So you'll be able to log on and register for a free account and deploy your own private little blockchain with the push of a button in about 90 seconds. Start coding away. We just released a couple of days ago two GitHub accounts to look at. One is Tech-Bureau. So there's a self-service deployment tool to deploy a chain on your laptop in just basically under a minute. The other, so that's Tech-Bureau under GitHub. And then the other one is NEM Tech, NEM Tech. And that's where we're working with the foundation to bring the NEM protocol. So we're delivering Catapult. They work with us to build tooling and kind of cultivate the community. So those are kind of two areas where people go to those GitHub repos. They can start to look at the SDKs and docs and play around with Catapult.
Okay, great. And I just want to thank both of you guys for coming on to the podcast and sharing all this knowledge and your expertise with us and letting us know about Tech Bureau and all the great things that you guys are doing. And just thank both of you. I thank both of you for your time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you again.
Yeah. Thanks for having us.
You have been listening to Almost Here, Around the Corner Future Technology podcast with Richard Jacobs. Subscribe to this podcast, post a review to discover more future technologies that are poised to transform our lives for better or worse, such as Bitcoin, artificial intelligence, 3D printing, blockchain, virtual reality, and more.